I was at flea market in Plainville where I had a booth, and I got a telephone call from a social worker from Hartford Hospital.
All of a sudden, she just ran down the stairs and said, "We gotta go." That was an accident.
So we went to Hartford Hospital, where we were met by a social worker, and we were told that Scott was life-started to the hospital, and he was in CAT scan at that point. There was damage to his heart, so we didn't know if he was going to make it.
Nothing could have prepared me to see my dad the way I saw him.
Both of his femurs were broken. His left tibia was a compound break. He had a tear to the aorta. He had a fracture in his back. He had dislocated thumb. He had a shattered foot. He was just a mess. He was an absolute mess.
You don't expect something like that to happen to anybody. My dad's superhero. He's indestructible.
It was just like one of those trauma movies that you go to and people go in and they go, "Oh my God," because that's exactly what it is. This is the person that I love that's laying there, and this is not the person.
Things change so fast. Things can go from great to awful in just a second.
It was a beautiful day. It was late November. It was cold. Got dressed for the weather, put about 5 layers of clothes on, and headed out. Get up through the mountains, and it was just a fantastic day. Coming down towards the end of the ride, I was gonna stop and get a cup of coffee, like I always do. As soon as I saw him coming, I knew what was happening, and I was running it through my head, and I said, "Man, what are you doing? You gotta stop. The guy's gotta stop." And he didn't stop, and he'd take a left-hand turn in front of me. I hit the car.
Scott was ejected off of his motorcycle and catapulted into the other driver's windshield. The gentleman who took a left-hand turn in front of Scott claimed that he didn't see Scott and had basically taken that left-hand turn against the right-of-way.
My body was moving forward, and when I hit the windshield, my body stopped. When I stopped, everything inside my body kept moving forward. And that forward motion, my heart kept going forward, and it tore a hole in my aortic valve. I don't remember very much of it at all.
I got the call at around 11 o'clock in the morning. So it was, it was early in the day. By the time I got to see him, it was almost 11 o'clock at night. I leaned into him because he was semi-conscious at that point.
I told her I didn't think I was gonna make it, and that I was gonna go.
I said, "No, you're not. You're coming back to us." I said, "You've been in an accident and it wasn't your fault." I was thinking, oh my God, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? How is this gonna be taken care of? I knew in my head I had to get a lawyer because I knew things were very serious. And, it is an accident, so I knew that something had to be done. Trantolo and Trantolo came to my mind.
I received a call from Leslie letting me know that Scott had been in a motorcycle accident. As can be expected, due to Scott's serious injuries, she was very concerned about, obviously, his well-being.
And I spoke to Keith, and he said, just don't worry. Just get your family healed. Don't worry about anything that's going on right now. Don't worry about bills or anything like that.
When my family hired Trantolo and Trantolo, they didn't understand anything that was going on, except that my dad was hurt.
What I did with Leslie and Hannah was explain to them how I could come in to the situation and kind of alleviate some of the stress on them.
He just had such confidence, and he was calm. He said, "Everything's gonna be okay."
Keith just kept on reassuring me, it's okay. Breathe. Take a breath.
Probably better you didn't know about this because it would have been off.
I had to go back to work. Hannah, my daughter, stayed home, quit her job to stay home with him, and she put off going to college for a year because somebody had to take care of him, and otherwise I would have had to put him into another facility, and that wasn't going to happen.
I stayed home and took care of him. I drove him doctor's appointments to wherever he wanted to go. He wanted to go to Home Depot because it made him feel normal.
We had upwards of $700,000 worth of bills.
What I always tell clients is You need to worry about getting Scott better. Let us take care of everything else. The individual's insurance company who was at fault for the accident wasn't quite at the level they needed to be in terms of understanding the severity of this accident.
Keith went after the gentleman, rightfully so, and did the best and got us the best settlement that he possibly could.
To make sure that Scott and Leslie and Hannah had a future that was secure, and they deserve it.
It's been 2.5 years, and there's still such a long road ahead of us to go. And it's probably going to be for the rest of his life. And I'm just happy that Keith was there, and he helped us.
My daughter will have a future, and we are able to put things away so that we can have a future and not worry about whether our bills are going to be paid or when the next dollar is going to come from.
So if anything, he kept us together. I don't know what would have happened. I really don't know what would happen if I didn't have Keith.
You know, we're comfortable now. We're at the point where we're saying, okay, we can live, we can breathe, we can take a breath. Because it was like holding our breath for 2.5 years. And Trantolo and Trantolo made it possible that we could breathe.
I owe a lot to Keith Trantolo. He's a great friend. Can't say enough about him. Thank you, Keith, you know. You mean the world to me.
I know my parents are going to be taken care of. I don't have to worry about them with my dad not having a job, my mom working a job. I don't have to worry about them worrying. Everything's going to be okay. The future looks good. It looks a lot better than it did 2.5 years ago.